Hello, everyone. Today, me and Alex W. Cherry, that is his @ on Twitter, all lowercase, have a fantastic conversation. We specifically tackle a few topics, starting with nutrition, transferring into a life balance, and making changes in a healthy manner where you're not too strict, but you're getting things done, you're seeing results, time sinks, how to avoid them, how to recognize them, and noticing how to use a tool properly. It's not guns that kill people. It's the person wielding the gun that kills people. That's just an example, but let me know. Drop a review, a rating if you enjoy. Let's go.
The boiled down basic premise of the book was, you are your worst enemy. Resistance comes in all shapes and forms, and it does not want you to do what you know you should be doing. So you just got to start beating it. And that's essentially what I did. That little voice in your head that chirps away, you're your own worst critic at the end of the day. And once you come to terms with that, amazing things start to happen because you don't fear the public criticism anymore, because once you realize it's all you're projecting these criticisms. It's like, screw that, man. Let's just see what I can do.
It's that differentiation between your ego and your higher self. The ego is that bitch voice, but our higher selves do know what we're supposed to be doing, the inner potential that we have. And then that voice just tries to hold us back, give us any and every excuse not to take action. And once you recognize that voice, it becomes so much easier. Oh my gosh. I don't know why my throat's killing me right now.
That's all right, my friend. I have that happen from time to time again. I haven't had a sore throat in forever. And maybe it's because I eat like copious amounts of honey all the time. I'm not quite sure. Like I eat that shit literally. It's a problem. 32 ounces in 3 days. It's nuts.
I'm a huge fan of honey, and I was looking through your tweets. I saw that, and you reminded me. I went and had a spoonful right when I saw your tweet. And
yeah,
what you were kayaking when you had that honey with you as well?
Oh yeah. It's my snack everywhere, man. Like when I go on the river, I take a bag of beef jerky and a thing of honey, and then a bunch of San Pellegrino. Like that's my stack right there, and life is good.
Man, it's about getting back to nature and consuming these natural things. I just went and purchased some local eggs, 5 dozen, because trying to get on the all local flow. I'm not some fear mongerer, but hey, the way our government acts, I perceive, some scary things happening in the future. So
yeah. And not only the government intervention, which I don't have zero faith in, but it feels really good to support local farmers, especially, and your local community, whatever you can buy local. I try to buy local, but another bonus to that is when you buy that local meat, you're buying meat that you know where it came from and you know how these animals were raised, which is a big bonus. I don't know if could tell the difference if you bought meat. Well, I know eggs are a big one because I buy farm fresh eggs as well. And the difference between farm fresh eggs and store-bought eggs is night and day. And I believe the same is true about beef and poultry as well. It's night and day, the taste difference. It's amazing.
It's about the life that they lived. I think you can directly taste. If you I've seen these images where they're quote unquote cage free, and then I don't know if you've heard of Carnivore Aurelius, but I love that guy. And he posts a picture with all 3 different images, and they're so slick with their advertising. They claim cage free, and they're just stuffed in a factory, like no room at all. So yeah, number one, we got to support the local people rather than the monopolies. And then number 2, it's like there is a complete difference in quality, and you don't really know until you try it. I'm just recently getting on the local eggs, and me and my mom, we are finding some local farms, going to get another freezer so we can buy whatever it is, a quarter cow, a half cow. But the monopolies, I do not want to support them, man.
No. And again, it just feels good to be able to support local. But, I've been trying to eat some game meat as well. I listened to Cameron Haynes and Joe Rogan 2 weeks ago. I believe he was on there. And then I bought his book, which that book blew my mind and changed my life. It was absolutely amazing. But anyway, they were just talking about the differences between one farm raised beef and ultra processed beef. And then they were telling the difference between game meat and then the farm meat, and the night and day difference between game meat and regular meat, which is just cattle. It's just crazy. The bioavailability between the nutrients and how much nicer the meat looks, just kind of like you're talking about the different images of the different meats there. But it's crazy, my friend. You know, nutrition is a wild thing. And once you dive into it, for me at least, it's like Pandora's box, because you never stop. You know, a few years ago, I was eating like shit. You know, when I was in drug addiction, actually active drug addiction, I was laughing about this the other day, because like I'd have like $8. That's all I had to my name. And I had a little bit of drugs. I'm like, all right, I could either buy a pack of cigarettes or I could eat something. Usually I buy a pack of cigarettes and buy like some candy bar, and that's all I'd eat all day. And I felt like dick. And I'm like, coming to where I'm at today, trying to source all my food locally and really watch what I eat. Like, not only have I felt physically better, but my mental health, which has always been a little bit of a problem, drastically better, drastically.
And once you crack open that Pandora's box, it's absolutely mind-blowing how much different domains of your life see the benefits. It's not just your physical body, not just the mindset, not just your sleep. It's a complete plethora of benefits. And it's crazy. I used to be the same way. I love Snickers. And now I am that nutritional label reading person. I can't eat anything if I don't read the label. And so sometimes I'm still tempted. I'll see a Hershey's bar. Wow, that looks good. And I look at the back, contains bioengineered ingredients. I'm like, oh, never mind. No, thank you. And it's wonderful when you see the benefits, you have a clearer mind, and it's just like, wow. You know, I wish you knew that. I wish I knew it earlier, but to be where I'm at now, it's like almost unbelievable.
I love to eat healthy, but I'm not above fucking up a Snickers. I love them. And that's a problem I have. And that's why I try not to be rigid, you know? So like, I am completely aware that I operate physically, mentally better when I eat good whole foods. I know that for a fact. I know that once I introduce things like Snickers, or like I work part-time in the bar restaurant, I get free food there. Sometimes I really like to make a buffalo chicken sandwich, which is a fried chicken piece, and hot cheese balls. I love it. It's just it's just comfort food. But every time after I eat it, it's like clockwork. And I was talking about this the other day. I don't know if it's a placebo in my mind, because I'm completely aware of this, but my blood sugar drops like crazy afterwards. And I feel like shit. Like my mind was once like dun, 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 going 100 miles an hour and good. And then once I introduce that crappy food, I just like kind of flatline. I'm like, shit, there goes my energy. There goes my cognition. So like these little things. And again, I don't know if it's because I'm aware of what that food is or what it is, but I am aware that it is a negative for me.
It's hard to differentiate between, is this a placebo effect or is this real? But I feel the same way with the self-awareness of what you're eating and what it does to you. I am definitely leaning towards the fact that it is not a placebo effect, because the same thing happens to me. And something I do enjoy is making homemade snacks. I'm the same way. Sugar is good, but you have to have it in low quantities and balance it. It can't be an everyday thing, because literally it's addicting. I know I've heard people like Andrew Huberman, very intellectual PhD type of individuals, speak on the science behind how certain foods cause certain chemical reactions within your system. And I agree, it's a fine line though. You should definitely have comfort food. It just can't be something that you run to every damn day. If you earn it, if you know you've gone 6 days in a row of doing whatever works for you. It's not like everyone has to be ripped and shredded to the T. But if you got an extra 50 pounds of fat on you, you gotta somehow understand that what you consume, that's what you become.
Yeah, without a doubt, 100%. Also a big Huberman fan as well, but it's just about finding those little quirks about yourself and realizing what this food does to you, because, you know, bad food in, bad quality out, good food in, good quality out. That's all there is at the end of the day. And once you start to realize what it's like to eat a healthy I always struggle saying diet because I really hate that word, because it's like when you see somebody eating healthy, you're like, oh, you're dieting. It's like, no, I'm eating healthy. Like, what are you doing? You know what I mean? I just haven't found a good replacement for that word yet, but it's a mind mess up.
I kind of view it more as a lifestyle. It's
Mm,
a healthy lifestyle.
mm,
And the word diet is just an ugly word because the way people use it and try to say, I'm going to diet for this many days. In reality, living a enlightened, a path where you're chasing or pursuing wisdom, pursuing health, and looking to be kind rather than correct all the time. It's just an adaptation that you make with time, and it's not something that you reverse every week. It becomes who you are. You kind of embody the idea of, okay, this, whoever the source, the creator, the universe, Buddha, Christian, Jesus,
mm,
whoever gave you this vessel, we have to use it in the
mhm,
right manner. And
mhm,
it's our gut is our second brain.
mhm.
Literally everything is just so oddly intertwined. It's beautiful.
It is absolutely beautiful, but it's just having that moderation in your life and knowing what you want. I often get prodded and joked about, when I go to picnics and such, and this happened this weekend, on Memorial Day, we were camping all weekend and we went to a different cookout, and, I'm indulging. It's the weekend. I'm camping, like I'm having s'mores, I'm eating burgers, hot dogs, whatever's there, I'm eating because I'm hungry. You know what I mean? And it's a vacation. And, some people joke at me because they see I'm fit and they're like, oh, should you be eating that? It's like, because I look this way, I can eat that and get away with it. And I have no regrets about it, because it's like, I probably even lost a pound or two, because every time I do eat crappy, ironically, I lose more weight because my body burns it up faster. It's just like, I have these options. And why would I want a diet that's so strict that I can't indulge, or like hate myself over eating some candy or something? Like, no, I know I'll feel like shit, but guess what? Sometimes I like the instant gratification and pleasure. So, oh, well, I'm not perfect. Sue me.
And that's a beautiful point. It's not that people who are ripped do not have moments of instant gratification. It's just the 90% of your life is delaying gratification. And
Mhm.
if you, it's like, if did you are you drinking to drink, or are you
Mhm.
drinking because you're celebrating and you
Mhm.
earned it? And that's what I'm trying to get across to more people is, it's not, we don't have to be some strict complete like person who doesn't have fun, who doesn't enjoy things, but it has to be earned. You can't just spoil yourself all the time, because then you become this flabby, unintelligent person who treats the world as something that is happening to them, and everything's out of your control before you know it, and you just throw these victim cards everywhere. And it's just there's a snowball effect for the
Mhm.
positive, and there's a snowball effect for the negative. So understanding just the balance, really.
Yeah, I've coached 9 guys in the last 90 days, and I've actually onboarded 3 more in the past 2 weeks. And what you just said is the main lesson I try to drive home to them, because this is something I suffered with for a while as well, that I would make my routine so strict and rigid that if I missed a step in any of it, I would get so down on myself because I failed in my eyes. I missed one thing, whatever it may be. Maybe I hit the snooze button that morning or something. I'd be like, oh, day's a failure already. I didn't get the concept of just like letting that slide, keep going, keep pushing forward, realize you're imperfect. So there's still times that I get a little upset about that, not nearly as bad as I used to, but it's that point I try to hammer home to the guys I try to coach, because what we're doing with these men is, my whole premise is reject mediocrity. And what that just means is like, don't go with what everybody else is doing and try to get more out of yourself in your life, because you'll find that the more you push yourself, the more fulfillment and meaning you're going to draw out of your life. So I try to tell these guys like, hey, make these schedules, and I don't give them the schedule. I say like, hey, I'm going to help you, but you need to make a schedule that works for you at the end of the day, because I'm not the one that has to do it every day. You have to like it. So they make this routine, and I try to hammer home the point like, hey, do not get upset with yourself at the start. You realize you're imperfect. Every night when you go to your journal, write down where you made mistakes, see how you can fix them in the future, and then move on. That's it. Let it go. Because if you do that, you're going to get hung up on some mental barriers for a while. And I know this because I did it for quite some time.
What are some of the most common mental barriers that they speak to you about? Because I'm interested in becoming someone who helps people grow myself as a coach. Just it's like our goal has to be to share the things that we struggled with because they were horrible when we were struggling through them. So to actually be, we're not perfect, but we've at least pushed past to a certain point where we see the growth from our previous self to where we are now. So what are those common things that your clients are really struggling with on the mindset type of
Well,
approach?
you just said it right there. It's mindset. Every single one of those 9 guys and the other 2 that I onboarded all have the similar problems where they did not think that they were able to live a better life than they were living. And then they doled out all different excuses, which is fine. You know what I mean? We're just starting, and their excuses were typically the same. Like, oh, I don't have time for that. I have kids. This is going on. Oh, I have this too. You know what I mean? So like, it's all these priorities that we think are priorities, but they're not. So when I started with these gentlemen, rather, the first thing we did was strip down their days. And I'm like, I just want to know what you do all day. I was like, give me 2 days or 1 day, even out of your week, write down everything you do minute by minute, and then let's go from there. It's happened every single time that as soon as they wrote everything down, shared it with me, I'm like, wow, it looks like you have a lot of free time that you're filling with things that are not providing you any value in life. So why don't we think about stripping some of those away? Well, aha. One of the things that comes to mind is this gentleman had a block of time where he'd sit down and watch the news and do this other stuff. And I'm like, hey, what's up with this? He's like, well, that's my time when I get home from work. I'm really tired. I'm like, oh, well, let's work on getting you not tired so you can fulfill that time instead of sitting down doing nothing and being more productive. So, we introduced some training regimens, some nutrition, because that all ties together. If you're not eating a good balanced diet and you're not exercising, people think when you exercise, you're going to get more tired. And ironically, it gives you more energy. So I try to tell these guys this. And for gentlemen who have never worked out before, this is a hard concept to wrap your mind around. It's like, oh, go to the gym, work hard as hell for an hour, and I'll be dead. It's like, yeah, you might be for a little bit, but in the long run, you're going to gain so much endurance and energy that hour that you wanted to sit down when you go home is going to be an hour. You're like, I can fill this with something else. So the biggest thing for people to realize is the mindset aspect of it, and to realize that you can change your life. Just because your life the way it is now, and the majority of the men I've worked with are over 35. So they're like family men, they're right in that little middle part of life, almost like a midlife crisis where they're not sure what the hell to do, but they've been conditioned for so long. And I think about my dad all the time because he always says, I'm old school. Because I tell him about things. I'm like, Dad, it's 2022. No one cares what happened in the 80s. No one cares. We don't care about what you live by. You know what I mean? It's 2022. And he just always like old school. So it's like, I feel like that generation has that ingrained in their mind. This is how things are.
The idea that no one can change their life except for you. I like how you gave them the flexibility with the routine, because you could give them the tools. Our job is to show them the fundamentals to improving your life. Number one, you got to be aware of how you're spending your time. Number two, how is your energy levels? They're probably low, not because you're not capable of more, but because you're not exercising, you're eating processed foods, you're spending your energy consuming news instead of inspiring videos that get your creativity going. It's like we just get programmed and conditioned throughout the years to think in a certain style. And once you kind of rewire your mind, that's literally the name of the podcast for a reason, because the conditioning that has been shoved down the average Joe, our government. I definitely am not a fan of governments in general, because if they put out content that really inspired people to fix their nutrition, fix their sleep, be kind rather than being correct, and have more compassion rather than always trying to one up someone else. It's like this race of who has more money, who has more this, when in reality, they could preach, hey, we're all connected, we should all be trying to benefit each other. And it's just, man, the mainstream really bothers me. That's the best way to sum it up.
Well, what you just said there, that's a feature of the government, not a bug. That's that way for a reason, and I could sit here and I could grab my tinfoil hat out of the glove compartment over there, man, and put it on, because like I think about that all the time, and I work in a bar atmosphere. So I banter with people all the time about this, because I have a lot of people that come in there that want to talk politics. I'm like, they're all crooks. I literally equate it, when I was young, I was a big WWE fan, loved it. And I watched at my grandpa's house, and he's like, they all go back in the locker room and high five each other after they're done wrestling. And I'm like, yeah, I know. I don't care. You know what I mean? It's a show. But I equate that to politics now, because, you have Democrats and Republicans coming out on TV saying, I hate you. I hate you. And I'm like, they probably go to the back room and high five and say, hey, we got them. You know what I mean? Because look at all them. They're doing quite well for each other, making a little salary, and they're worth millions and millions. But it's a very crazy experience, man.
Yeah, and that kind of the view comes from having a bigger picture view, not letting your emotions get aroused from watching that TV, but actually thinking about, oh, well, he's very well off, and so is he. So are they really that, like there must be something a bit deeper to their motives? And well, why is there just constant news in the manner of negativity, and their purpose is never to drive creativity, but to spur division? And it's just, once you kind of look at it with a wider lens and ask a few more in-depth questions to yourself, really the whole part of working on yourself comes from asking questions and deeper questions. Like that bar scene that you're in, I can't imagine how many people you come across and you're like, oh, wow, they're really just so unaware of how they're spending their time.
99% of people, my friend, I kind of laugh at myself. I don't laugh, but I judge. I mean, everybody judges, and the people who say they don't judge people are liars. But I don't, the difference is I don't tell them to their face, like, hey, I'm judging you right now based on this. I just log it in my mind. Okay, everybody's different. Everybody has different life experiences. But I want to back up for 1 minute, because I just thought of a point and remembered it, that something you said kind of about rewiring your brain and thinking that things are always going to be the same, similar to how I just spoke about those gentlemen that I worked with, and they're kind of stuck in their old ways. When I first got out of rehab back in, 2017, I had been to rehab for 90 days. I just got out of jail because I was a drug addict. I stole money from my job, so I get out of there. I have a criminal record now, and I'm like, well, my life's over. I'm 26 or 25, 26 at the time. And I'm like, well, life's over, because, I have a criminal record now and no one's ever going to hire me, blah, blah, blah. So, I was real down on myself and self-worth and everything. So I took a job for literally minimum wage. And wow, what a shot to the heart that was, because I came from making a very, very nice salary. And that happened. And I remember, I don't know what moment it happened, but like over the next 2 or 3 months, I went through 4 jobs, with each job giving me a raise. So I kept job hopping rather. And I was noticing some with each job that I hopped to, my confidence grew a little bit more. And I finally ended up my last job, and it was a powder metal factory, which my area is one of the biggest powder metal manufacturers in the world, which is just parts that go in cars and lawn and automotive and things of that nature. But I got a job there, and within 8 months, I was actually a supervisor, a salaried supervisor. I had applied and bid for that job. They gave me an interview, and I was point blank with them about my record. They knew who I was, and they appreciated my candidness, and they could tell that I had changed as a person because of what my demeanor and what my presence brought. And that was a huge confidence boost. And it was at that moment that I realized I don't give 2 shits about my past. Like, my past is something that happened to me, wouldn't trade it for the world, defined who I am today. And you know what? Instead of hiding that, I'm going to elevate that, because again, like, that's my story. I came back from that. Everybody loves a comeback story, and that's what I told myself in my head. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to do every opportunity I possibly can. And life has only been up since there.
And the correlation between your self-image and everyday life is huge. And I love how you're able to just completely embody your past rather than in there's a difference between running from your past and accepting that it's occurred. And now it's you have stacked the lessons. You've learned so much from the person you used to be, and now where you're at today, it's like a complete 180. So that kind of makes me curious. What was a few of the beginning changes that you had to implement? Because I know going from that person who you used to be to trying to make a change, that's probably the hardest part. And once you get running, we talk about compounding. You're probably on a streak right now of momentum. But at that turning point, what was that like?
The turning point when like I got out of rehab and restarted my life, that point.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, man. Just like you said, it compounds for sure. You know, it takes a little bit of time, and it's not a linear graph. You know, it's a lot of ups, a lot of downs, and sometimes you have a really good streak, and sometimes you have a really bad streak. Like shit just happens. It's just rolling with the punches. You know, I handled a lot of situations these past few years very poorly, and I'm better now because of them, because I've realized a lot. But you know, building your confidence back in anything, whatever happens to you in life, say you have no confidence at all. You know, a problem with me is I've always suffered with needing instant gratification, which kind of led me to drug addiction and, you know, abusing drugs and alcohol, because I love the instant gratification. And that's what drifted me towards harder drugs, because the instant gratification was faster. So to realize and get out of rehab and realize, all right, Alex, you better humble yourself, because now you're working a job for $750, you know, and you're putting a label on yourself like this. And then with each job, the momentum grew, you know, my confidence grew a little more. Now, again, I don't have the greatest confidence at this time because I'm freaking 26 and I lived on my own for 6 or 7 years. And now I had to move back with my parents, and that wasn't enjoyable, you know, living back at home when you're 26, and like all these things that happen and all this adversity. And it's really hard to go through sometimes. And again, I really had to humble myself. There's a lot of times, you know, my dad would yell at me for freaking leaving the light on. I'm like, I'm 27 freaking years old, man. You're going to yell at me for leaving a light on. But then I had to be like, you know what? This isn't my freaking house. You know what I mean? I don't pay the bills. I don't do anything. I'm just living here. So I better be respectful of that. So I'm glad I was, because it takes a long time. It takes a long time. And that's what turns a lot of people off to real serious change in their life, because it doesn't happen overnight. You have to put the footwork in. Like these past 4.5 years of me getting out of rehab, like my life has been a 180. I'm a completely different person. People I used to serve at the other bar I used to work at see me 5-6 years later now. And they're like, wow, you're unrecognizable, because I have muscles now and I'm not like some scrawny little drug addict. You know what I mean? They're like, you changed. I'm like, yeah, I freaking hope so. The person I was before sucked, you know? So it's like, what the hell? But what comes along with that is like, you don't relate to I don't relate to a majority of the people I used to hang out with. And that includes the friends I grew up with, who I was best friends with for 10 years. You know, we are just on two different levels of life. You know, I work at a bar in the middle of town. I see my buddies come in there sometimes. We're freaking 10 years ago, we were going to the bars, bar hopping. I'm done. They're still doing the same thing. And it really opens my eyes. It's like, wow. And I don't say it to them because it's not my place. It's like, wow, you're still in that same cycle of like Monday through Friday sucks ass. But guess what? Friday, Saturday, Sunday, we drink. Monday, we do it all over again. So it's just like, no, thank you.
That lifestyle is completely toxic. It's what I refer to as autopilot, where it's cool, you're making money, you think you're living a good life, but you're squandering your potential to be someone of influence, to like what you've done is you went through a rough past and now you're able to completely educate so many people on your past experiences and how they can become better. And if I'm sure there's many who admire you, whether it's for the mindset you have or the body that you've built, like good things take time. It's one of my favorite quotes. And I think one of the cornerstones to working on yourself is just having more of a longer term vision rather than a 2 week instant gratification vision. The Once we can get away from instant gratification, I really think that's one of the most harmful things for human beings. Whether, I don't know if you've heard of the idea of dopamine detox. I just looked into it recently.
Did it this weekend.
And it makes such a difference if you become aware of how the scrolling and the artificial dopamine affects your motivation. I always say that motivation is bullshit, but now I'm realizing actually motivation is completely real, but you have to learn how to cultivate it and protect your motivation rather than if you fry your dopamine receptors with anything instant. If it's porn, if it's drugs, if it's too much social media, constant likes, constant follows, it's not the same thing as going for a 5 mile run or doing an hour of a weightlifting session. Like once we learn to delay gratification, it's not easy, but anything worth having isn't easy. And it's the beauty in perseverance and knowing what you went through to get to where you are now makes it so much better. Like I'm 100% sure you wouldn't redo your past because your past is just full of lessons.
Yeah, and that dopamine, what'd you just call it? I had a brain fart.
Dopamine detox.
Dopamine detox. I suppose I did that this weekend, Thursday to Sunday. I was camping all weekend, 72 hours, no cell phone. All I had was my girlfriend, my dog, and a few books. And that's what I did. And I'll tell you what, I went down, we stayed at actually, it's like a national park / dam. So we walked down to the dam, I sat there by the river, stared at the trees. We went on a lot of walks. We did a lot of outdoor activities all weekend, dude. And I'll tell you what, it was absolutely amazing. Yeah, the first night sucked without my phone. I'm not even going to lie. Like it was unenjoyable. It's like, oh shit, I have no service out here. I can't surf Twitter or like mindlessly scroll or do whatever, check my email, like do these dumb, tedious things. And then after the second day, I'm like, wow, I really like not having my phone. And I remember getting back Sunday evening and I could barely bring myself to like look at any of my notifications. Like I just didn't want to. I'm like, screw this phone. And that's how I've been all week, like I'm still on it and I time block times to get on it. But like, it's just like, once you realize what it's like the day or two after you quit like social media or your phone for a few days, and then you're like, wow, this is what life is like. I didn't realize how much of my life was getting censored by this dopamine that I was getting hijacked by mindlessly scrolling. I had to delete TikTok a few weeks ago, man, because like initially I was going to start posting videos on TikTok and then I didn't. I found myself like literally I'm like, I'm going to watch 5 minutes of TikTok. Well, 5 minutes turned into an hour and then an hour turned into 2 hours. Dude, it sucks you in so hard. And I finally said like, I'm getting zero value out of this. Like it's literally just robbing me of my time. It's insane.
And I am inspired by your 72-hour detox. That is something I need to do. And the idea of time blocks, fantastic. And I wouldn't even give myself 5 minutes on TikTok. There's certain things that after you do it once or twice, you say never again. And that's where I'm at with certain apps. And see, Twitter is beautiful at the same time because you are getting good information, but you have to recognize the potential time sink that it is. And just like you said, getting in nature, unplugging, that is what we're meant to do. We are spiritual beings in human bodies. We're not these artificial robots. And it's just we live at such a opportunity-filled time. The idea that we can speak right now, have a beautiful conversation, technology is a blessing,
Amazing.
but we have to be the users of technology rather than allowing it to use and control us. There's the contrast in life is completely necessary, because if you didn't go through the artificial dopamine addictions, you wouldn't realize the beauty. Today, I was just sitting back on the hammock, throwing the ball to my dogs. And I'm like, 5 minutes ago, I felt like shit. I was in my head. My mindset wasn't good. And you get outside, you bare feet on grass. If you haven't heard of that, look up this documentary called Earthing on YouTube. It lowers your body's inflammation. It's just, there's so many hidden tactics to live a more enjoyable life that the mainstream would never tell you.
100%. You know, I'm still running off natural high from this weekend, you know, camping 3 days in the woods, no cell phone, just immersed in nature. And then Monday we went down the river, spent a whole day down there, jumped in natural water, natural flowing water, which is absolutely amazing. And like all these things coupled together, no shoes all day long on ground, stepping on gravel. Like, dude, I'll tell you what, I only got 6 hours of sleep on Monday to Tuesday. And I racked up a recovery score at 82 on my Whoop, because I spent so much energy, got sunshine all day, supplemented some magnesium, glycine, and L-theanine at night, dude. And I slept for only 6 hours, got an 82% recovery score. I was mind blown. But to your point about social media, you know, I was actually having this, funny enough, I had this exact conversation with somebody at the bar yesterday, an older gentleman, I'd say he's in his 50s, and he was just bashing the shit out of social media. Because I was talking to somebody else about Twitter, because that's like the only platform I absolutely love. And I was talking to him about Twitter, and of course he had to chime in and say, I hate Twitter, it's nothing but crap on there, blah, blah, blah. I was like, yo, man, it's a tool like anything else, and it's about how you use it. You can use it like a shithead if you want, you're going to get shit results. That's at the end of the day. I don't use it like a shithead. Well, sometimes I do because it's easy to go on wormholes, but for the most part, I curated my feed to information that is beneficial to me. So, and you see this in society all the time, you know, people want to blame the tool for what the user is doing. So social media is the devil because you use it like an idiot. Guns are evil because people use it like idiots. Well, we might as well go after forks because they make people fat, and then we'll spin to cars because they kill people. It's like, it's not the tool, it's the people. A hammer can be used to smash a nail and make a house, or it could be used to kill somebody. It's all about how you use it. So like, I pay no peace of mind, because I used to be a person who hated social media. And that's because I was just like, I was on Facebook looking what all my old classmates were doing. I'm like, oh, they bought a house. Oh, they have a family. Oh, they have this. I don't have any of that. That's depressing. Like, no, thank you. You know, so it's all about, at the end of the day, how you use any tool that you're using.
That's just well said. And the fact that people will blame the tool itself rather than take accountability. Let's spin this into the realm of personal responsibility. There is just a lack of admitting that you are where you're at right now because of every decision you've made in your life. And think, okay, if you're not happy where you're at now, does stressing and self-pity and worry do anything at all for you? No. So maybe, like you've done, like I've done, curate your social media to people that inspire you. Like, I've learned so much from the creators that I consume their information, and it like literal routines and structure, ways to journal, ways to time block. Something recent I've been doing is working, because I know most people are distracted. We have short attention spans, but if you put a timer on your phone, 50, 75 minutes, you understand how to really do deep work. I didn't pull this out of thin air. I learned it from the email list that I consume. There's so much to be learned from people like you and others that are providing helpful content. And I was doing the same thing back in the day when I hated social media. I was looking at hot girls, looking at people who I wish my life was like them. And then you just get in this negative compounding cycle of a shit mindset. So it really, I think, all starts with the self-awareness. Like, okay, am I doing this and I'm doing this, so I feel bad about it? Take that note and change what you're doing. If something makes you feel bad or you have regret about something, you should probably cut it out of your life. Or like we mentioned earlier, maybe only do it 1 out of 10 times, like the Snickers example or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, but to highlight the fact that you highlighted all those negative feelings, pain, regret, misery, whatever the other few others were, but any negative feeling, like for instance, for example, my experience with drug addiction, like these are all things that have to happen in people's lives. Too many times people try to run from all the bad that's going to happen to them, and I know I did, because who wants anything bad to happen to them? But the reality of the situation is, like, you need the bad shit to happen in your life so you can realize, like, oh, this is what it's like. Because if you don't, you have no parallel to explain it to. If you have great experiences in everything you do, like, yeah, that's wonderful, but you learn nothing. All the learning in life is done through failure. Every great lesson I have in my life has been a result of extreme failure. I have been trying to start a business here for like 3 years. I have ran through every single topic I could think of because I just wanted to get rich. And that was a problem. That's the only thing I had on my mind, was I want to get rich. So everything that I was trying to get rich in, I failed miserably. And why was that? Because my motivation was on one thing. Until this past year, I've changed up the game plan. I'm like, you know what? I think I'm going to have to wait to get rich, because it's just not happening this way. Like, I've tried 8 different things and it hasn't worked. So what the hell are we going to do now? So that's when I changed the game plan. I was actually an anon on Twitter for 2 years. And now since October, I've been my public profile. I made a new profile, and I've learned so much. And not only the accountability factor, because now my name and face is plastered on what I'm saying, which makes shit real, but things really started to change because I started connecting with a lot of great individuals, and I started learning a lot. And I realized why I wasn't succeeding in the past. So I was like, oh, now I can draw parallels back to all those failures to look at me now. Am I super successful? Well, no, I'm just starting, but like, I'm helping individuals change their lives, which not only is the money good, but like the feelings I get from being able to have these impacts on these men's lives is 100 times better. I get messages from these gentlemen, I check in on them and say, how you doing? And they tell me what they're doing now. Like, this one fella I have is actually getting ready to run a 5K at the end of the month. This dude freaking 2 months ago could barely walk 2 freaking walks a day, 15, 20 minutes. Didn't want to do it. You know what I mean? He wasn't horribly out of shape. He just smoked a lot. So he still smokes, unfortunately, but not nearly as much as he did. I'm like, you're going to run a 5K and you smoke. You're freaking nuts, man. But it's like this mental toughness that he has in his mind now. He's like, I just want to see if I can do it. I'm like, good for you, brother. So it's just like changing the things that happen, like turning those negatives into a positive. It's just like, oh, okay, that happened for this reason.
There's an art to embracing the difficulty, and it comes with time. The way we're wired by the conditioning, the programming, is to avoid hardship. And then once we rewire our minds to appreciate all the toughness that we've gone through and realize, wait, that happened for a clear reason, because now I've learned this, and this from it. You must be grateful for everything that's occurred in your life. And once you make that shift, things become easier. I was on that same path of, I want to get rich quick. I just want money. And then I came to realize, oh, well, most people, not most, but there's a big amount of people who spend all their time chasing money and they're still miserable. They look to please others. They get the car not for themselves, but to please others. They want that response, that support from people. but it's not real support like you're getting by changing someone's life. It's artificial support that they're looking for. Oh, your car looks so good. Oh, wow. Rather than actually making a true impact on someone's life. And that's what caught me in this service aspect of speaking, sharing real, truthful experiences that I would never perceive myself to be open enough to share in my past. But like that song, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. You use those hardships. And if you can change one life, even one life, it's inspiring. And in our deep, whoever created us, we are meant to serve humanity or animals, but the complexity in the human, the body, the mind, like I love this idea. We have thoughts and feelings, but our consciousness, what's the thing behind our thoughts and feelings? There's something behind that. And that's where we get that wholehearted feeling of knowing we're serving others, we're helping people, and it's almost something you can't put into words because I know there's plenty of rich people who are just miserable because they don't have a purpose. They're not clear with their values, their mission. They don't have a vision. They just worked all their life to make a bunch of money. And for me and you, it didn't work that way. I tried for years to get rich quick. And, I'm actually 100% positive I will get this money, but it's not in that quick timing that we want. It takes persistence and a complete change of who you are to actually attract what you want. It's like rewiring the mind. That's the third time it's came up, but it's a good name because it's very relevant in my everyday life.
I'm not a very religious person. I would consider myself agnostic. I'm just in the middle. I don't claim anything, but I don't disparage religion at all. I think it's absolutely wonderful. It's just not for me at this point in my life. But somebody once told me God paints on a bigger canvas. And what they broke that down to mean is you can't see the meaning of what's happened to you in life right now, whether it be good, bad, or ugly, whatever it is. But there's a purpose and a reason that you're going through what you're going through right now. And later down the road, you're going to see it. I was having a conversation yesterday with my girlfriend, and I told her without a doubt, I have zero doubts that I'm going to be massively successful in life. I feel like that I already am without the money aspect, because I just feel so good about my health and wellness and everything else. But like what I meant to her was in the more monetary aspect, to have a good life. Because of course you can disparage money all you want, but you need it to have a good life. And of course that is a goal that I'm working towards. I'm like, I have zero doubts in my life. Do I have it right now? No. Do I have it all figured out? No. But guess what? This week, I know a shit ton more than I knew 2 weeks ago. And guess what? In another 2 weeks, I'm going to know even more. So once it's literally, and it took me 4 years to cultivate this mindset. Like, again, this did not happen overnight. This mindset was through a lot of trial and error, getting upset at myself, thinking I'm a failure, quitting for a few months, getting back on the horse. Like, this shit took time to cultivate. And that's, again, what I try to tell the fellows I talk with. And actually, that's what we do. We have an initial Zoom call before I admit them into my program. And that's one of the questions I ask them, because I'm like, hey, if you're in this for instant gratification, you think in 8 weeks you're going to be completely healed and like better, like this isn't for you. You need to realize this is a long game, my friend. And by long game, I mean the rest of your effing life. What we're doing here, and I call my program the Foundations Program, because that's all I'm doing for you. I'm helping you lay down the foundation in your life that you can build upon. What you do past that process is on you, man. But you need to know this is a lifelong thing, and it doesn't stop until you die. And if they aren't game for that and they want the quick fix, like the people who say like, hey, I want a fitness coach because I got a wedding in 6 weeks. It's like, no, I'm not coaching you. You already lost. You know what I mean? Because you're just trying to get fit for one thing. And then right after the wedding, you know what I mean? So it's just like, it's a waste of time.
Yeah, you said a lot that I really resonate with. The idea that you're looking to get fit in 6 weeks is just flat out a joke. And the blessing of doing your own program is, hey, you can say, no, I'm not working with that type of person, because there's going to be certain prerequisites in the perception of someone who actually has the potential to cultivate a strong mindset, to cultivate that success. And going back to what you said earlier, you are successful, my friend. Right now, you know it. And just because you're not rich yet doesn't mean it's not coming your way. It's that 10-year vision. And just like the 4 years that it took to cultivate the mindset, nothing great happens overnight. And as long as you are clear with that vision, mission, values, and purpose, good things are going to occur. And I'm on the same path. It's like, I've realized it's not coming tomorrow. It's not coming the next day, but it is coming. So what do I have to do? Like your program, focus on the fundamentals, the basics. We've already clarified that, but people think that success is so complicated, and to each individual, you go through different experiences. All our minds work a bit different, but do we all have limiting beliefs? Yes. Do we all have negative self-talk that must be eradicated? Yes. Do we all have specific innate desires? Yes. But as long as you're learning, like you said, you've learned much more in the past 2 weeks than you knew before. That's the art of this. It's having that long-term vision. Everything gets better with patience, persistency, and really, from all the podcasts I've listened to, Jordan Peterson, Joe Rogan, Chris Williamson, people who are in good shape, their minds are healthy, their finances are healthy, their families are amazing. They focus on the fundamentals. They have a routine. They value their sleep, nutrition, exercise, meditation, read books, don't consume bullshit. It seems simple, but it's not easy to be consistent.
I'd say 3 of my top 5 heroes. Maybe not top 5, but whatever. They're 3 people that I really look up to: Joe Rogan, David Goggins, Cameron Haynes. All 3 of those guys have a similar story where they grew up like shit. They had a lot of adversity in their life. They cranked out reps left and right at what they wanted to get good at. They got good at it and they were successful. And that's the template, you know what I mean? And that's my template. Like, I grew up, my childhood wasn't the greatest ever. You know what I mean? I've had a lot of adversity, even my teenage and middle-aged years, but like, here I am now cranking out the reps, and that's all it takes. I think a lot of the time people get upset and discouraged because, like, they're at the starting point. They're like, fuck this starting point. This sucks. You know what I mean? Like, we have to do all this work now. But it's like, yeah, you got to do the work. But guess what? The journey is the best part. I think about any time that my friends and I went on a road trip, specifically after we graduated. We drove down from Pennsylvania to South Carolina to Myrtle Beach. And that's probably like a 13-hour drive. 5 guys, 5 18-year-olds in a freaking Dodge Neon. I never had more fun in my freaking life on that car ride. And I would say the car ride there was more fun than time at the beach. I have more memories from the car ride, and it's a perfect analogy for life, that the journey is where all the great happens in life, not the destination. Because once you get to the destination, you're like, well, I just want to go somewhere else. It's all in the journey.
And there's an art to learn how to appreciate the journey. And I'll be completely honest, I still have hard days, and I know you have hard days too.
Yeah.
But it's learning how to reduce the amount of hard days. In the past, they were much more common. And now it's like you have a hard thought, but you're so aware, you rewire that thought nearly immediately, using whatever tools or methods that you've learned through time from the mentors. And then you spend much more time in a blissful state of mind because of the work you've put in. And I think that's a beautiful way to sum it up. Like, this conversation was enlightening. I enjoyed your energy. I'm not too religious either, but I like the idea that we are spiritual beings in a human body. We're not human beings in a human body, because you can feel someone's energy. And sometimes people wear masks and it's hard to see through it. But once you've done your inner work to realize who you want to become and to cultivate a mindset that is enjoyable to live with, you feel the energy from other people. So if you have anywhere that you'd like to direct the audience, you could let them know right now.
Yeah, the main platform that I'm on is specifically Twitter at Alex W. Cherry, all lowercase. And yeah, I do all my posting on there. I'm not really on any other platforms. I found that Twitter seems to be the most not only beneficial, but the most educational. You know, I feel like the gold, as I would say, is on Twitter. So you can find me there.
Thank you. Like, you, you are very similar to the way I live my life. And I think that's the same thing with all the successful people, Goggins, Haynes, Joe Rogan. We're all gonna have differences, but the fundamentals, man, you just have to enjoy the journey. If the audience remembers anything from this, enjoy your journey. Learn how to look and view each day as growth, as work, rather than always pushing that finishing line somewhere else. Like you said, once you get to that destination, you're just going to push it somewhere else. So enjoy the journey. Thank you so much, Alex. And I'll be speaking with you in the future.
Sounds great, brother. Thanks for having me. I appreciate you.